In the 70s, in the United States of America, 19-year-old Cheryl Thompson was a student at the University of Cincinnati. Considered a kind and caring person by her friends and family, Cheryl had aspired to become a nurse. She was like many other young women of the time, namely an avid fan of disco, the latest and greatest in music trends sweeping the country. On weekends, Cheryl would go out to dance with her friends and enjoy the nightlife of the 70s, a normal woman like anyone else. Tragically, for the kind-hearted Cheryl, however, fate would not be kind to her, as her nights of disco would be cut violently short on one Friday night, and she never returned home. What happened to Cheryl that night, and why was her mystery unsolved for nearly 4 decades? Let's find out in today's video.
We may finally have an answer to a 44-year-old cold case.
Cheryl was a young woman at the time, had a whole life in front of her, and never had an opportunity to live it.
It was March 24th, 1978. Cheryl had been on spring break staying with her parents and her younger brother Dan at their family home in Murcrimest. On the night of, Cheryl was going to Gatsby's Disco in the nearby neighborhood of Oakley to meet with her boyfriend. Originally, she had planned to go together with her friend Laura Bressert. However, in what may have been an eerie moment of clairvoyance, Bressert had changed her mind at the last minute, having a bad feeling about that night, and had called Cheryl beforehand to urge her not to go out. As the story goes, Cheryl would not heed her friend's words and drove out to Gatsby's Disco, despite Bressert's warning. After all, it was only a hunch. Cheryl left her home around 10:30 p.m. that night. As she headed out and told her brother where she was headed for the night, Dan would soon realize that he would be the last person to see Cheryl alive ever again. At Gatsby's Disco, Cheryl's boyfriend had been waiting for her. Seconds turned into minutes, minutes into an hour. He soon realized that she had been running late, far later than was comfortable. Her boyfriend began searching the area immediately. There was no sign that Cheryl was at the disco or the surrounding area. Nothing for several hours into the night. It was at 2 a.m., however, when her boyfriend would spot her car. But rather than Cheryl being the driver, in her place was an unidentified man who quickly drove away as the boyfriend began to chase him. Unfortunately, the chase was heavily one-sided as the car would get away from him at the nearby Hyde Park Plaza. With that, nothing else would be found of her that night. It would only be later that investigators would find her car in the nearby area completely unoccupied. When Cheryl's older brother Bill had graduated from police academy in Austin, Texas, he was met with a harrowing look on his mother's face. His sister had gone missing. Dan had immediately reported Cheryl's disappearance the day after, on March 25th. Few could believe someone like Cheryl would willingly run away, no less with an unknown man. Investigators and loved ones alike hoped that they would be able to find some clue or lead that would find her before anything dire happened. Just like the night before, there was little evidence on where she could be or who could have been with her. Everyone searched and waited with bated breath until on April 8th, 2 weeks after the report, something happened. A state game warden was inspecting fishermen's licenses on East Kemper Road in Loveland when he noticed something entangled in the brush on the banks of the Little Miami River. On closer inspection, to the warden's horror, It was the decomposing corpse of a young woman. Most of her clothing was missing, save for socks, shoes, and jewelry, and there were signs of severe bruising on her head and neck. When County Lead Coroner Dr. Paul Jolly examined the body that they brought in that day, there was no doubt that it was that of the missing Cheryl. The state of decomposition showed that she had died only a few days ago. The cause of death was determined to be strangulation and blunt force trauma to the head, in addition to signs that she had been raped. This news haunted not only Cheryl's friends and family, but also the Loveland police, who discovered her body. With the body having been so far removed from the area in which the initial crime took place, investigators continued to have few leads on who could have been the primary suspects in the murder of Cheryl Thompson. As Cheryl's loved ones would mourn for the undeserved cruelty inflicted on her, police would continue to monitor the case in the years to come. After the coroner's examination, authorities collected physical evidence from Cheryl's body and stored it at the Hamilton County Coroner's Office. Due to the limitations of forensic technologies at the time, however, little new information could be extrapolated from the evidence. The investigation went cold, becoming one of just 2 cold cases in Loveland at the time. Despite this, the Loveland police officers and Bureau of Criminal Investigations would not forget the murder of Cheryl Thompson. Over the next few decades, DNA evidence would be gathered by investigators keeping tabs on the case. In 1994, Steve Moster would join the Loveland Police Department as a detective and would eventually become the lead investigator on the case. As the years went by, advances in forensics and data analysis would bring some hope that eventually headway would be made on the investigation. And then in 2012, a breakthrough would start to emerge. Using new techniques, investigators under Moster would analyze the old evidence stored at the office from all those years ago and were able to produce a partial DNA profile of an unknown person. This person had not had their DNA collected at either the state or federal levels. The investigators had planned to try uploading the partial profile to a genealogy database when suddenly more DNA evidence would be uncovered from the coroner's office that had been neglected for years since the case went cold. Moster had been hopeful this would lead to more conclusive results. However, despite the advancements in the case, it would take another decade of work before the case would come to a decisive conclusion. With 4 banker boxes full of case evidence, Moster continued to work on the case. Cheryl's parents had died in the interim, but her still living brothers Bill and Dan had continued wanting answers. It would only be until 2022 when they finally received closure. Cheryl was just one of many in a string of mysterious killings in the late 70s and early 80s in the Cincinnati region, with nearly 16 women between the ages of 12 to 27 found dead. While many of the cases would also remain unsolved, it would be Cheryl's cold case that would illuminate more than just her own murder. When Moster's investigation team submitted their evidence through the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation to a third-party genealogy company in 2022, they finally were able to determine a family tree, a brother, a cousin, and an uncle related to the suspect. The investigators contacted the 3 of them for a semen sample for testing, which they all agreed. The test results matched negative in all of them, ruling them out as instigators in the case. However, when questioned, the 3 told authorities that there was another relative, a brother, Ralph Howell. Howell was an over-the-road truck driver working as delivery for the Cincinnati Enquirer. While not much is known about Howell's public demeanor, investigations into Howell's criminal record revealed that he had been previously arrested in 1983 for attempted abduction. According to reports of the incident, Howell had spotted a woman at the side of the neighborhood. At the time, still employed by the Inquirer, he was driving a black and white camper truck filled with newspapers. Howell flagged down the woman and introduced her under the pseudonym of Jim Miller. "I'm not no animal, you know. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going your way. I'll give you a ride," the woman would recall him saying in a later court testimony. He offered the woman a ride 3 times, to which she repeatedly refused twice before finally relenting on the final offer. It would turn out to be a mistake. As the woman entered his truck, the situation quickly escalated when Howell put a rope around her neck in an attempt to strangle her. In an attempt to fight back, the woman quickly kicked the truck door open and tried to jump out mid-motion, but Howell caught her by the coat and blouse, all the while swerving the truck to try and close the door. Howell insisted that he wanted to have sex with the woman, to which she replied, "You're going to have to kill me first." Strangely, Howell apologized, claiming he had never done this before. The woman asked Howell if he was married. He answered yes. She then asked if he would have wanted the same thing to happen to his wife. He answered no. Howell unsuccessfully tried to lay on her lap as she tried to leave before letting her get away, leading to a report that ended in Howell's arrest. In court, he would end up pleading guilty to a lesser charge of unlawful restraint and stayed a free man. Unfortunately for him, in 1985, Howell would soon die in a fatal car crash. Investigators on the Thompson case would exhume his body in the summer of 2022, removing his jawbone for DNA testing. With a compounding DNA and substantial criminal profile, the analysis would reveal that Ralph Howell, in addition to being a delivery driver, also moonlighted as a serial killer and rapist. He was responsible for not only the murder and rape of Cheryl Thompson, but also those of Charmaine Stola, Nancy Ann Theobald, and Victoria Hincher. What exactly happened on March 24, 1978 remains a mystery. Did Howell wait at the disco, preying on the first woman he saw, or was there more to it? Where had he gone? Who else did he kill? With Howell taking his secrets to the grave, we may never find out for sure. His past crimes almost certainly point to him having a consistent modus operandi, but for Cheryl's still remaining brothers and friends, it is enough of a relief to know that the monster who took her away from them was long gone from this world after 44 years. So there you have it. This video is dedicated to the memory of Cheryl Thompson. Do you think Howell was responsible for any more of the Cincinnati serial killings? Let us know in the comments below. If you appreciated this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more true crime coverage. Thanks for watching, and see you soon in the next video.